Ladies and gentlemen, this is my review of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Aquaman 2. I saw this with some family members at the local theater on a Tuesday night. It was like 5:25 on a bargain night. Um, it was like last week as the recording of this video was. I think we were the only ones there. But I think that's because people who are going to want to watch it watched it already. And not because of the poor movie. It was a good movie. Um, the writing was well done, and yes, there's going to be a ton of action in this movie, but it does not absorb the plot in its entirety. And I don't want to give away any spoilers whatsoever. So I'm just going to keep this nice and short. I do recommend this movie highly. With the rash of poorly made uh, superhero movies coming out, especially on the DC flank, this one is an exception. And the acting was really well done. You can see the guy on the left hand side in the bluish or purple suit. Um, that was Aquaman's brother. And I'm not going to go any further than that. Um, the action scenes were very long. Of course, this was an action movie, and you're going to be nodding. Yeah, right. Sure, sure. So that's one criticism of the movie, that the action scenes are long. However, this is an action movie, and it makes no bones about what it is. The special effects were good. Uh, the antagonist, Black Manta, was well written. It has scenes from. Hold on. I will keep talking as I get my food out the oven. It has scenes from like World of Warcraft, the Undead Lich King. That's in there. What else is going on up in there? Um, the set design was very, very interesting. A lot of it was. Uh, yeah, there was some pee jokes, some scat humor in this movie, but it was like two scenes of it. The magical octopus that could work in and out of water. That was interesting to say the very least. A lot of callbacks were in this movie in a good way. It's not predictable in the sense of the word. Uh, what else can I say? I don't want to spoil any of it. Uh, the character motivations were very clear. You do get characters that you do kind of grow attached to, so there was not too many characters in this movie. They did have kind of like an unnamed one. I think it was the sub captain under Black Manta himself. So I thought that was very, very interesting. Um, there was a scientist with conflicting morals. There were instances to where, yeah, you shouldn't really survive that, but okay, going on. Uh, the action scenes, like I said, they weren't over the top, but they were pretty interesting and very intense. The dialogue, it was written okay. I mean, they actually paid attention to the writing there. Um, it became very difficult to separate Jason Momoa from Aquaman. And if you go in there knowing this and expecting this, it won't mess up the experience too much because there are moments that Jason Momoa and other characters they did have to have some sort of emotional connection. And for an action movie and a DC movie, it was well done, presented in a believable fashion. So the suspension of disbelief is not completely off the chain. The behaviors of the characters are not completely, uh, out of script. Not that I know much about who is who and what is what. Is it consistent with the previous movies? Um, I think so. That there is definitely a passage of time. Uh, the interworkings of the various cogs of the movie. They paid attention to that as much as they could. Um, it was absolute monarchy. It was like a council monarchy that had to deal with that. And yes, there is a child here. Um, they didn't do a whole lot with the kid, but if you notice the little circles coming from their foreheads, both Jason Momoa and the kid, that's a callback to the Challenge of the Super Friends series that was done in the 80s. The It's in the opening scenes of a very white and blonde-headed Aquaman that these circles are coming from the head. And I'm not doing the I'm upset that Jason Momoa is the color that he is and it should be blonde hair. I'm not doing that. Um, I feel that his heritage is fairly mixed and that I think it's appropriate the way he is. Um, I don't think he quite acts like the character of the comic books, but the comic books would portray him as a little bit darker and heavier, and I think he's an older version. Aquaman is older in the comic books at this point. So, right now, this is an Aquaman fairly early in his career, but he's presented it as doable, as functional, as he's doing his best despite everything. He clearly takes his role very seriously. Yes, there is a message that some people are going to be very upset about, that the climate is indeed in danger and needs to be addressed, but that is appropriate because Aquaman does live in the ocean, and the oceans do have a very big impact on our environment. I'm not going to sit here and give you a scientific treaty, but the plot of the movie was very much not so completely off the wall. Um, yes, it had blatant points to it, very obvious points to it, and that there's some people going to be upset about it. But it was presented as realistic. Excuse me, not realistic, but viable. And I didn't really find that the plot was that punch in your face kind of thing. They kept with it. They didn't swap plots in the middle of the movie. It was very consistent. Now, as far as the explosive green stuff that was being handled around, it's very delicate. I and my other family member, we joked about that throughout the movie. Look at it be tossed around and thrown around. It's supposed to be very volatile. Those containers being slammed on the ground that didn't go boom. Okay, that's fine. I mean, you just kind of have to overlook that in a very big way. Um, But the destruction of the planet was very clear, and the other antagonist, the one that looks like the Lich King, that's something else. I really like that storyline. Very, very consistent. Um, Presented as a credible threat. Now there was some like, yeah, right, he can do that kind of stuff. But I thought, yeah, this is that kind of movie, and you're going to get that. I thought the fight scenes were fairly well edited, even though it's kind of close shot. They didn't do shaky cam. They didn't necessarily do jump scenes. Um, they took the choreographers took their time and made sure that the movie looked fairly. I don't want to say realistic, but it looked fairly like they took their time and paid attention to what was going on in the movie. The fight scenes looked okay. Um, what else do I need to say? I think there were a lot of mini twists throughout the movie. Dolph Lundgren acts well. He acts okay in the movie, I guess. He was consistently there. He was not overlooked. The guy who played the dwarf in Lord of the Rings, his voice acting was very good. Uh, I'm just saying this was a good movie, and I was very surprised. I'm going to say 4 out of 5. And this ain't necessarily a 5-star movie by any means. No, just kind of corny. I mean, they were careful on the use of humor, that it was done appropriately, more or less. It did not break the tension. It kind of was melded in there carefully. So I thought that they used their humor carefully and sparingly. So, um, if you can still catch it on a bargain night at your local theater, it's something good to see with the family. When it comes out on streaming, I definitely recommend catching it, or the rental on a red box. Definitely see it. Um, but that's about all I have to say for the movie, and I appreciate you listening.